Uh, for stars, this is going to be a very interesting matchup just because Andy Reid, the head coach of the Kansas City Chiefs, he's playing against his former team, which, by the way, he has taken this team to the Super Bowl before. I think when he had Donovan McNabb was his quarterback.
Hmm.
So I think that's a kind of a full circle kind of going on with Andy Reid to really solidify how great of a coach he really is, taking multiple teams to a Super Bowl.
Okay, and also Nick Sirianni, he also was a coach with the Chiefs as well.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That's another wrinkle as well. Yeah, yeah. So and also as far as Super Bowl experience between both teams, from the Kansas City side, you got Mahomes, Kelsey, Chris Jones, and Harmon and Edwards Hilaire. Now with Philadelphia side, you got Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, the kicker, and Sue. But Sue, he played with Tampa Bay when they beat the Chiefs a couple years ago. And
I bet
that's
he's excited.
yeah, of course he is. At least he got experience with beating the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. So
Yeah, that's right. And it's really neat to kind of see that, like the Eagles, the team itself, last time they were there was not too long ago. This is their second appearance within 5 years. Yeah, with the Chiefs. The Chiefs were there just 2 years ago, and
hmm
then 3 years ago from today as well. So this is their third appearance within 4 years. So it there is definitely going to be some players on both sides that have Super Bowl experience, which is going to be great because these guys know what it's like to be in the big stage, and they're not scared of the big lights. So it's going to be a great matchup, in my opinion.
yeah, yeah. The way I see it is that I mean Kansas City to me, as far as on the offensive side, they got the most experience. They got like a lot of playoff games under their belt. What the X factor is going to be, just like when KC played against the Buccaneers, is the pass rush. Because even during that Super Bowl back in that 2021 when the game was played, Kansas City had some offensive linemen that was pretty much kind of like banged up and hurt and out of the game. So that literally affected their whole flow of the offense. But now that, you know, fast forward to today, that pass rush is just as lethal as that Buccaneers pass rush was. But can't Patrick, he has a ankle injury, so I mean he needed this 2 week hiatus just to kind of get healed up a little bit, same as Jalen Hurts with his shoulder injury. But if that pass rush is going to be just as lethal as the one a couple years ago, then I mean it's pretty much going to be game over, no matter what KC is going to do on the offensive side of the ball. If that pass rush is going to disrupt everything, then I mean Philadelphia should win handily. But I
Yeah,
would give Mahomes that respect and finding a way into kind of neutralizing what they can do. I mean, hopefully BNB can come up with a game plan as far as getting the ball out of Patrick Mahomes' hands because we don't know how mobile he's going to be.
right. The ankle definitely plays a role in kind of what to expect because his legs are an asset to him. He can make the hard throws, and his legs can extend the plays to make the throw to either Kelsey, whoever is open for him.
Hmm.
Um, Someone I listened to within sports media kind of explained this to me. It's where you can't stop Mahomes with the blitz. He actually plays somewhat better when he is blitzed. Like, if you want to stop him, you kind of have to go with the four-man rush and make sure that his receivers are well covered. So the more time it takes for Mahomes to play, that's when the pass rush can capitalize, especially if Mahomes' ankle is not fully healed. So if you want to stop him, blitzing is not the answer for sure. Because if you blitz him, he's just going to do a simple check down to either Kelsey or his running backs. Because I think the running backs are going to have to step up if Mahomes wants to get the ball out of his hands for sure.
Yeah, you got to look out for Pacheco and Jarek McKinnon. So they're going to be key in this matchup. So,
And I
yeah.
just got recent notification that Edwards Hilaire is going to be in this game too. So it'd be great to see
Oh,
him play.
Oh, he's off the IR. That's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I didn't know that. See, you more up to speed than I am.
I actually literally saw this about maybe an hour ago, and I was just upstairs doing stuff in the house. I was just on ESPN. Oh, a little notifications, the sports updates on ESPN. Edwards Hilaire's back. I'm like, okay, cool. That's new to me. I'll make sure I bring it up.
Awesome. Okay. I wonder how much plays he's going to see, how many touches he's going to get. Yes, I guess it's good news. Another runner back out the backfield. I mean, he is a big, stocky guy, so I'm sure he could pick up decent blitzes and probably do some chips off of those defensive ends because Hassan Reddick, I mean, he is a beast coming off that line.
Oh yeah,
I think he's their best pass rush. Um, Fletcher Cox and also Brandon Graham. I mean, both those guys could cause havoc as well. And I believe everyone on that line has at least 10 sacks for the year, and I don't think I ever seen that before in my history of watching football. So that's why I said this pass rush is going to be the X factor in determining whether Philadelphia can win either a close game or possibly a blowout. Because I never envisioned that Mahomes will be getting blown out against the Buccaneers, even with a bad offensive line. I never envisioned like the score being that it was because they didn't even score a touchdown at all during that game. And whoever envisioned that, I mean, we're talking about Brady versus Mahomes. This supposed to be one of the most epic matchups ever in Super Bowl history, but it was totally one sided. I never saw that. So
yeah.
should be good.
Outside of the O line issue Mahomes had in his last Super Bowl, one thing I think played a role was I believe one of the coaches got into um I think some sort of car crash that led to someone fatally dying, and I'm sure
Yeah.
that kind of mentally threw off the Chiefs literally the week of the Super Bowl too, knowing that that was going around. So yeah, there's the O line was a problem, and just kind of like mentally, they probably just they weren't mentally there, ready to play after hearing that news related to their one of their coaches.
It was Andy Reid's son. Yeah.
Yes, that's
Yeah, I remember
that's
that.
big.
Yeah. Okay.
And you mentioned X factors, and one from each team that I'd like to point out with the Eagles. I think Devonta Smith has to be a difference maker because the defense is going to be on AJ Brown, who is wide receiver one for the Eagles. Devonta Smith, I think he's a second year receiver. Yes, he's a second year receiver. But if you look at the numbers between AJ Brown and Devonta Smith, their numbers are pretty similar. And if that can continue for Smith, then he can come up big on big plays when and AJ Brown is going to be covered heavily. So he has to be a difference maker for the Eagles to have a chance. And you mentioned Chris Jones earlier for the Chiefs. He's first team all pro, 15 and a half sacks this season. And yeah, you got to find a way to stop him because that's how you're going to contain Hurts because Hurts uses his legs. So Chris
Hmm.
Jones has to step up and make sure he doesn't use his legs to advantage because quite frankly, Jalen Hurts is someone I really like to watch play. He's electric. He has the legs, and his throwing has gotten better over the years since I've seen him in college. But he's he's more valuable in my opinion with his legs than his arms. So if you stop the legs, then unfortunately, I don't know how well Jalen Hurts is going to throw the ball, especially if he has a lingering shoulder injury, like you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, you got to pick your poison. I mean, if you want to take away his legs and force him to throw, that's probably going to be like your main game plan. So you definitely got to go that route. And as far as Devontae Smith and AJ Brown, I mean, yes, these are two dynamic receivers that can kind of take the top off the defense. So you you got to find a way to either try to like take one away and try to focus on playing good defense on the other one that you want to leave 1-on-1. But I mean, it's better said than done. So, but yeah, that's why these coaches get paid millions of dollars to like figure out these game plans. All we could just kind of do is just kind of figure out what's the best course of action they can kind of do. But yeah, it's gonna be a fun game to like watch and see these different coaches playing chess.
Yeah, for sure. And both coaches, they're very smart. Whether it's Eagles or Chiefs, and kind of talking about offensive pieces for the Chiefs. I'm not sure what the status is going to be for some of their receivers because if I recall, Juju, Hardman, and Tony had to leave the game early against the Bengals. So
Hmm.
of those three, I'm not sure which one's going to be ready to suit up for the game on Sunday. Sure, you have Travis Kelsey, who's easily the best tight end in football at the moment, and you have Mahomes, who's arguably the best quarterback in football.
Yeah.
Sure, that duo works, but eventually it's going to have to be slowed down a little bit if that's all if Kelsey's all you have to throw to in terms of receivers. But it is going to be a little bit of a struggle if all three of those guys aren't ready to suit up for the game for sure.
Yeah, when it comes to big games like this, I mean, sometimes those no names kind of like make a name for themselves just by playing big in the big lights. I recall back in that Seahawks and Patriots game in which, like out of nowhere, I believe this guy, I think his name was Chris Moore. He was a receiver for the Seahawks. He literally had a huge game for them, but fortunately, his effort was all for nothing because they threw the interception at the goal line. But he could have possibly been the MVP because he had a huge game, especially down the stretch. And
Hmm.
you got players like Deion Branch. He has a Super Bowl MVP when the Patriots played the Eagles in the Super Bowl back in '05. So, but yeah, this is always next man up. I'm not that's like the most cliche thing to say, next man up. But if those guys are not going to suit up, then yes, it would apply definitely in this game. Next man up, and you got to play big. I mean, you got one of the most accurate quarterbacks in history throwing it to you. So catch the ball, try to get some yak yards, try to break some tackles, get some touchdowns. Saying, yeah, you definitely make a name for yourself.
If there's a player that I don't want to be the next man up, this is a Packers fan. I don't want to see MVS
MBS,
continue to catch passes because that was the thing. I remember he
yeah.
was playing for the Packers. I'm like, come on, man, you can't drop that. He didn't drop anything against the Bengals, and I remember telling my coworkers like, "Oh, MVS ain't gonna catch anything. That last game was a fluke. Nope, 116 yards and a TD. It's like, dang, where was he at when I needed him to do that with the Packers?
Maybe it's different playing in a frozen tundra versus playing in a city that has roughly 30-degree weather. I think it's easier to catch passes in 30 degrees versus sub-zero type of weather. So I thought it's triple that. And plus, like, I actually heard stories back in the day in which, like, when Brett Favre used to like throw those bullets to those receivers, he used to break fingers.
I have heard about that
So
actually.
so yeah, it is a thing. Being a receiver in Green Bay, I mean, you got to be sure-handed. I mean, you got to be. But yeah, I mean, obviously KC is not as cold as Green Bay. So, but yeah, he should definitely have better chances because most of those targets was like going to Adam. So at least with KC, like the ball is getting a little bit spread around, especially with Tyreek also being gone this past offseason. So yeah, he just had better opportunities to even shine.
Yeah, man, it's definitely gonna be warmer in Glendale, Arizona. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, yeah. He should have a field day then, right?
Yeah, I actually have a work office in Scottsdale, and they were just telling me, yeah, like it's busy there this week for sure because it's also the Waste Management Golf Tournament at the same time as the Super Bowl. So it's popping definitely in Arizona at the moment. Um,
Well, wait. Why are you in Scottsdale right now?
well, no. Let me clarify. I'm in the Chicago area still, but we have another office in Scottsdale that we
Right, right.
so
But you should be in Scottsdale right now, right?
oh, I should be. Yeah, you're right. I'm actually trying to get out there because I was actually there last year around the same time. So yeah,
Okay.
February, March is the perfect time to go.
Okay. All right. Cool. Cool. Got
Um,
anything?
one thing I wanted to touch on is just overall, like, what's your analysis on the Chiefs' defense? Because their strength is definitely the offense, but what about their defense? Is there anything good to say about that side of the ball, or is it just going to be, yeah, that defense is not going to do anything for the Chiefs?
Um, I don't know. I mean, it seemed like their offense kind of covers up like a lot of holes in their defense, but it just seemed like Chris Jones is just a one man wrecking crew versus the Eagles defensive line, which you got any guy that can pretty much kind of like cause havoc against the quarterback. But I mean, I mean, The Chiefs' offense is so prolific, so it's so easy for them to kind of like play as front runners, and like the defense to get kind of like kind of be lost in a shuffle. As far as like getting an accurate depiction or how their defense is actually good or bad. It's kind of hard to gauge that, but I mean, obviously the Eagles' defense is way better. But yeah, I mean Chris Jones is the only household name that I really know, and you know he is a good player. He's a Pro Bowler. Other than that, I really can't tell you much about their defense.
Yeah, I mean, there really isn't much, but I will give a shout out to one defensive player, and that's Jalen Watson, who had an interception in both playoff games this season. Maybe might come up big again and get an interception for the
Okay.
Chiefs again for this Super Bowl. But you're right, the defense is nothing spectacular, and they're really bad against the RPO and in the red zone. So if Jalen Hurts and company are in the red zone, you might as well just let them go through because that's their specialty too. Is I believe they are in the top 5 in terms of red zone touchdowns. So yeah, that's one of their strengths is like when offensively they get close to that end zone, then they'll make it work.
That's it. Okay.
Let's see. Anyway, we'll kind of talk a little bit about kicking. Who's the better kicker on this team? If let's say that it's come down to the final possession, which kicker are you going to trust to get the job done if it's a tied game?
Honestly, um, Bucker he's been shaky lately, but the Phillies kicker, I mean he has experience in kicking the Super Bowl, and he was actually dead on the money, right down the middle when they played against the Patriots. So I would probably trust Phillies kicker more than Bucker, and plus Bucker he been banged up throughout the whole season. And those games that he did play, I mean, I'm not sure of his percentage, but I remember him missing makeable kicks. So I probably would lean more towards the Phillies kicker. What was his name again?
Jake Elliott.
Right, Jake Elliott. Okay, I got you.
You're right. Elliott has been on the money. He's 20 for 23, but hasn't kicked further than 56. Harrison Butker has missed more and has a lesser chance, but he has at least kicked a 62 yarder. So
Was that in Denver?
yeah, probably
Okay.
that game. Yes, it was probably in Denver, but yeah, Jake Elliott is more accurate and more consistent. But so far this season, Butker has made the longest yarder. If I were to choose between the two, gosh, I feel like Mahomes and company would bring the ball to a position where Butker doesn't have to kick that far. Like
Hmm.
he the offense can do that very well in tight situations when you have less than 2 minutes. You need to bring the ball down. They always get that part done. So Mahomes will put Butker in the best position. But in terms of if I were to choose the two, yeah, I take the Eagles kicker to get the job done. Just because I'd like consistency. Because I mean that's the name of the game. Like we've seen plenty of guys that kick it super far, but how good is it if you can't do it more than once or consistently at that level? Because it's a very stressful job. Believe it or not. I mean, people say, "Oh, I can make that kick," but when the pressure is on, yeah, you got to be on the money.
Yeah, of course. Yep. That's what you got.
I guess a little fun fact: both quarterbacks, Mahomes and Hurts, are from Texas, and combined, they are the youngest quarterbacks to play in the Super Bowl in terms of their ages. Like, I believe Mahomes is 26 or 27, Hurts
Hmm.
is 24, 25. Yeah, like they're very young guys, and it's so cool to see these guys in the biggest game of the season. And who knows, they might meet each other again in upcoming years, especially Mahomes since he's been there multiple times already. He's only been in the league for 5 years.
Yeah, like imagine what the Super Bowl win can do for Jalen Hurts as far as what adversity he had to kind of deal with, especially when he was with Alabama, to be benched in that championship game against Georgia, and then Tua had to throw that touchdown pass to Devontae Smith in order to win that that college championship game. So yeah, he dealt with so much adversity, and he even had to transfer from Alabama to Oklahoma. So yeah, he had his stuff to kind of deal with, and then once he got to the pros, he was back up behind Carson Wentz. Of course, Carson Wentz, he's not really playing like a starting quarterback in the NFL, and he pretty much kind of left it open for Jalen Hurts. So, but yeah, he definitely earned his position to even get to this point. And if this Super Bowl win, what it can do for him to like beat Patrick Mahomes and have like one of the best records in the NFL, as far as this year, have a prolific offense, a great defense. I mean, this defense can I'm sorry, this whole team can literally be a dynasty. But obviously, once you start to pay him like a max contract for a quarterback, then obviously you got to let some folks go. But that's going to be a new blueprint moving forward as far as for these teams. So like, if you can't win a Super Bowl with your quarterback on a rookie contract, then that's a wasted pick. That's probably how they're going to start viewing these quarterbacks now because Russell Wilson did it, Patrick Mahomes did it. If Jalen Hurts do it, he's going to do it. So yeah, that's going to be like the newest blueprint. Because back when I started watching football back in the early '90s, usually when quarterbacks got drafted, they sat it for about good 3 or 4 years behind the actual quarterback, just to kind of gain that experience, gain the playbook, and just to kind of seep in the atmosphere of how to be a starting quarterback. But like now, you got to win right now. That's the blueprint. So
Yeah, and some of that is to credit to Brady because when Brady won his first Super Bowl, he was I think a second year quarterback, and the expectations of you're right because like if you can win off a rookie deal, oh yeah, like you just got the cheapest Super Bowl you can get in terms of the quarterback position. Why can't you just continue to do that more? So like the expectations for young quarterbacks is definitely there. Like we've seen plenty of first overall pick quarterbacks. They start day one. And then you see back when you were watching football, yeah, they'd sat for a couple years, and Rodgers even sat for a couple of years.
hmm
The expectations are definitely higher on these guys when they first come in, especially if you're a first round pick. And watching Jalen Hurts has definitely been an inspiring story because every time there's a down, there's always an up for him. He gets benched, he comes back the following year, and to help Alabama win the SEC championship when Tua got hurt, and then he transfers, and then he becomes a Heisman finalist under Lincoln Riley at Oklahoma. He
hmm
goes to the NFL. He's a backup behind Carson Wentz, who's not very good. And then he starts, and then he takes him to a Super Bowl. Like, even if Jalen Hurts doesn't win this Super Bowl, I've seen this multiple times. Like, it's gonna be the rinse and repeat. He's gonna get kicked down, and he's gonna find his way to get back up again. And that's
yeah,
that's what I like about the Jalen Hurts story is that it's a roller coaster, up and
yeah,
down. It's gonna keep going.
yeah. At least for the next couple of years, Philly will be back as far as winning that division because like the Cowboys are getting older. Zeke, he should be out the door real soon. Dak is very inconsistent. I don't picture the Commanders doing anything to make any noise. And the Giants, they gotta figure out their quarterback situation because Daniel Jones, I don't think he's the answer at all. And plus, they have no legitimate weapons on the outside at all. The only thing that they have is Saquon. Besides that, who else do they have on the offensive side of the ball?
Well, they did have Tony, but then they gave him to the Chiefs.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, and you make a good point about the NFC East is like it's a lock almost for the Eagles because they also have a very good pick for the upcoming draft too. Um, and the Cowboys, I have a little soft spot for the Cowboys. I've kind of learned to sympathize a little bit with the fans, and their biggest problem is their owner. The owner is
yeah,
Jerry
he
Jones is just making it difficult. He's his own worst enemy in
yeah
terms
he
of getting a Super Bowl.
yeah, he wants to run everything. He wants to be the owner and a GM, and he wants to kind of have like a lot of influence on what the coaches are doing as far as scheme. I mean, yeah, Jerry, he did play football back in his college days. I get that he got a football experience, but he should kind of leave that to the professionals who knows what they're doing. But yeah, he wants his hand in every single thing. So, but yeah,
Yeah, it's unfortunate for them, but it's good for the Eagles because yeah, Giants, Eagles, um, the Commanders. I always keep saying Washington football team. It seems to stick with me better than Commanders. But yeah, the Commanders, yeah, those guys aren't going to be much of a threat next year unless they get unless some sort of one in a generational player gets in on their roster and changes everything, but I doubt that.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, we'll see.
Um, let's see. What about the Chiefs though? Like, win or lose, are the Chiefs coming back next year?
I mean, as long as they got Mahomes, yeah, they always going to be in a mix. But they just got to tinker with the roster just to kind of get the right combination, just to kind of get over the hump. But I mean, honestly, they were in danger losing that Super Bowl against the 49ers because, like, remember doing that playoff run, they had to make miraculous comebacks against the Texans, the Titans, and even the 49ers just to even come through with that Super Bowl because they were down 10 points with only, what, like 6 minutes left in that Super Bowl. They were down 24-0 to the Texans, and they were down 17-0 against the Titans. So, I mean, they were lucky to even win that one. So you know, as much as that offense is very prolific, sometimes they can be so careless with the football, and they just like know in the back of their heads, oh yeah, he'll get us out of hot water because he's Patrick Mahomes. He's the best quarterback in the league right now. But instead of them just thinking that way, just be more disciplined and and play more sound football, and that way they won't be in those positions to having to come back all the time. So yeah.
Hmm. Watching the growth of Patrick Mahomes has been interesting because, like, he sat for a year. He sat behind Alex Smith, and when he was ready to play, he was this new future for the Chiefs, and it was he could make the hard throws. I mean, I think one time he did a throw with his left hand, and that was a huge ESPN segment. And was more astounding was the fact that he admitted he didn't know how to read defenses when he started his first year. It's like you're making all these throws and you're doing all these great things, and you don't know how to read a defense. And then he learned, and then he continued to get better. And sometimes you see him make knucklehead decision throws or picks that cost him the game. But then you just see him just do another throw like, wow, I don't think a handful of quarterbacks can do that. It's nice to see Mahomes grow like from this kid that just went into the league with this immense talent. And now he's becoming this man ready to take on the mantle of being the face of the league, considering, all the old guys are retiring. Like Brady just retired. At least I think he did. I don't know. He might come back. It might be another Brett Favre where he retires and just comes back and just keeps doing it until he's done. But Brady's done playing. Rodgers is reaching pretty much, he's already passed his peak. He may have maybe one more good year, but he's not looking the greatest anymore against these new quarterbacks. And what's even great is, like I said this in a previous video, we are in the age of the greatest quarterbacks in terms of, you had Brady's, Manning, Rodgers, and now you have Mahomes, Herbert, Burrow, Josh Allen. It's like back to back, these ages of quarterbacks get better and better in terms of asking them to do much, because like back in the day, quarterbacks weren't asked to make all these hard throws or drive offenses down the field. So it's just so great that like the game has gotten so much more sophisticated, and just the skill level has gotten so much better. And who knows, maybe another Patrick Mahomes prototype is going to come into the league while Patrick Mahomes is in the league, and it's going to be rinse and repeat. Old man Mahomes 10 years from now faces off against this new quarterback of the generation, and then it might just keep happening over and over again after that.
Yeah, you might have to thank Peyton Manning for the way the quarterback position has been revolutionized because he was literally the offensive coordinator slash head coach on the line of scrimmage because he literally audible every single play. He would go to the line, read the defense, and he pretty much called his own plays on the line. And like now, like a lot of quarterbacks are kind of asked to kind of do that. So you can kind of thank Peyton Manning for like, expanding that role of a quarterback, especially a franchise quarterback. But yeah, yeah. I mean, hopefully he'll definitely get his due as far as the way he changed that. But yeah, I would definitely credit Peyton Manning for like doing that. Since his maybe second or third year. But yeah, I mean that was unheard of for him to even do that. But yeah,
Yeah.
so yeah, definitely thank Peyton Manning for that.
Oh, you definitely know that he does all that. Even if you don't if you haven't watched him play, if you even watched, his sports show with his brother Eli, like that man is very smart. He knows and speaks the game so well, and it's no doubt in my mind that he can call the plays. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, his head's kind of big. I'm sure it's a big brain with a bunch of plays. Well, yeah, yeah. Props to Peyton Manning for just kind of leading that charge for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, man, I didn't know that you were a comedian.
So, sometimes that can be funny. My f- I was talking to my family about this. Like my sisters, you work with my sister. I meet them for like family events. I'm like, yeah, you don't really know. You really get to know AJ on the podcast. That's when he actually shows his sense of humor.
Oh. Oh, cool, man.
Well, no, I mean you got cut off, so we can kind of start where you left off. You mentioned that they don't use the run game as much as they should. They depend on more on Jalen to run the ball. What were you saying about that?
Yeah, when a game is tight, they don't use the run game, but when they're up big and kind of like playing as front runners, they tend to use the running backs, which is fine. Yeah, use those running backs, but like when the game is tight, they tend to rely on Jalen for literally every single thing on the offensive side. So, but yeah, in this game right here, game may be tight. I believe Philly is favored by maybe 2.5 or 3 points, something like that. So, but yeah, hopefully they just have a well balanced offense, and I'm sure the defense is gonna do just fine. Defense always travels, but sometimes your offense, especially in a bright lights like this, none of those guys really don't have any experience except for Jason Kelsey,
Oh yeah.
as far as on the offensive side. But yeah, other than that, they are a very young team. So hopefully, it's gonna turn out to be a good game. And but yeah, defense should be fine. But I'm just worried about the offense if they're gonna be as proficient as they've been all year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can kind of share some thoughts on the Eagles, and we can transition to the predictions. It makes sense that they use the run game a lot when they're up by big, just to kill the clock and get things out of the way. And Jalen Hurts being a dual threat quarterback, like in tight situations, you want that dual threatness to be an asset because you got to keep the defense on their toes. Like, what are they going to do? Is he going to throw? Is he going to run it? So that's kind of why they don't rely on him on those tight situations. And it seems to work. I mean, one thing that I thought was really great is that he has the record for the most rushing TDs in a single season, which includes the regular and the postseason. And what makes him so great is he's 29 for 33 on QB sneaks. So that's a pretty good stat. Like you don't when it's short, when it's third and short or fourth and short, he's probably going to get it done for you, which is awesome to see. Um, we already talked about the pass defense. It's going to be a huge problem for the Chiefs. Darius Slay and company are going to hold those receivers pretty tightly as well. So we'll see how Patrick Mahomes adjusts to that. In terms of rush attempts, yeah, rushing is kind of their asset in terms of how many times they do it. Miles Sanders is not a scrub. Boston Scott's been stepping up, and of course you got Jalen Hurts. Um, Lane Johnson, he's allowed 0 sacks, so that's someone that's really going to be who you want to depend on in terms of protecting your quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Overall, offense and defense is the most balanced, as you mentioned, and that's probably why they're favorite. There's just lesser holes. The Chiefs have an advantage because when they have a strength, it's literally the best, being the best tight end, the best quarterback. Um, Pass defense is the best for the Eagles, but their run defense is not that great compared to that. So that could be the one hole on the defensive side that the Eagles may struggle with. So we'll see how that turns out for them.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Go ahead and lead off with your predictions, and I can go with mine.
Despite everything that we said between both teams, maybe I'm kind of leading with my heart. I am gonna go with my homeboy, Patrick Mahomes, the Chiefs. I'm gonna go with the Chiefs.
Funny story about that name, Patrick Mahomes. I'm sure you got that from Shannon Sharp. Or
Yes.
see,
Yeah.
before Shannon Sharp said it, I even said on record on my show, I called him Patrick Mahomey. And then out of nowhere, Shannon Sharp started saying Patrick my homeboy. I'm like, well, come on, what are the? You probably stole it from me.
You know what? You'll be shocked. I mean, like mainstream, sports pundits, they do watch independent media a lot. I mean, they do poach like unique phrases from us a smaller guy. So yeah, you'll be shocked of
I'll be
how many
honored if that's
celebrities.
true.
Yeah. I mean, obviously they would never admit this, but yeah, yeah, it definitely happened. So yeah, but hey, you should direct message Shannon and be like, hey, when did you start using my homeboy? Because back in this time step, I started using my Patrick Mahomey just to see if he responds to you. I
I
go ahead with
have
yours.
I follow Shannon Sharp on Twitter, and I have seen him interact with fans, and sometimes
Oh, he does.
he
Yeah, he
roasts them.
does.
They're pretty funny. So I've been on Twitter in a while. Maybe I'll have the courage to ask him. Um, but who knows? Okay, so your prediction is gonna be the Chiefs. That's
Yes.
funny because that's also my prediction. I want the
Okay.
Eagles to win, but my heart also tells me the Chiefs are gonna win it. Because if you have MVS and Kelsey continue to do their thing, if the receivers are still injured, Mahomes is going to get business done as usual. And then you got the running backs. If they can be available for the checkdowns, if they're going to apply the pressure on Mahomes, they'll relieve the pressure off Mahomes as well. The ankle plays a role, but we said the same thing against the Bengals. Like, oh, how's that ankle going to be against the Bengals?
Yeah.
Didn't really matter. He was just unfazed by anything. Eagles, most complete team. Jalen Hurts, he's young. He's got some talent, but he's also a little inexperienced though. So he seems a little off the last couple of games I've seen him play compared to beginning of the season. He was just on fire, and he seems to slow down a little bit. And maybe it's the shoulder injury. Um, Hopefully that's fully healed. 'Cause I want to see Jalen Hurts at his best to make this an exciting matchup.
Of
Just
course.
like we
Yeah.
wanted to see Mahomes and Brady at their best, but then the O line didn't do Mahomes a favor. So that wasn't the most exciting match because of that. I want to see both quarterbacks play at their best so we can remember this as not being some blowout and probably a close game or at least an exciting game. Um, so if Jalen Hurts' if shoulder injury is still a factor, he can't throw that ball. Chris Jones is gonna be real hungry for some sacks that game because that guy's a stud. I mean, he's come up big in the fourth quarter
Hmm.
before, especially that game against the Bengals. But Jalen Hurts and company want a chance. He has to use his assets in the receiving core to keep the offense alive just enough to get to the red zone to where the run game, including Jalen, can score. Because once they're in the red zone, then it's easy. It's easy money for them. But Chiefs still my pick because I trust Mahomes. I've seen this man do it so many times. You were just saying on his first Super Bowl appearance, he came back every game of that playoff series. This ain't going to be any different for him this series. So my heart and my gut says that I'm going to trust Mahomes and company and Andy Reid to really get the job done.
Yeah, same here. Just too many games, like big games under their belt, and Philly, as good as they are, just like their first time in the big shiny lights. I'm sure that they'll play well, but would it be well enough to be a well experienced Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, Eric Bieniemy type of team? So, but yeah, I'm going to with my homeboy.
Eric Bieniemy needs a job. He needs a head coaching job.
Yeah. Being that they haven't won a Super Bowl in a couple years, that's why his name has really been floating, like along with the like current guys that's like winning right now, just like with
Mm.
um the 49ers DC, he ended up getting that Texans head coaching job because, right now, like the 49ers, they were dominating team. So that's why his name was out there. So, but yeah, if the Chiefs win this year, then yeah, his name should be floating at least, if not this year, but next year's head coaching vacancies.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll definitely
I
see.
guess kind of off topic. What was your thought on the Sean Payton hire in Denver?
Being that Sean Payton has experience with working with a Hall of Fame quarterback that's like short in stature and Drew Brees. I thought it was a no brainer that he could probably fix Russell Wilson. If Russell is shot, then no coach is going to help him. But if there's anything that he can kind of revitalize his career, then Sean Payton is probably going to be like the right person for that. Because Drew Brees, he was what, like maybe 6 feet tall, and Russell was pretty much the same height. So at least he got experience with working with short quarterbacks that can kind of maximize every single ounce of talent out of that quarterback. So yes, I thought it was a no brainer.
Yeah, I forgot about the Drew Brees Russell Wilson comparison. Yeah, they're both shorter in stature. I think what Sean Payne will bring to the table is he'll simplify the offense a little bit more for Russell. And I really think that it's more of a mental thing for Russ. Like his game is there. Like we saw how well he did right before he left Seattle. Maybe something maybe something happened behind the scenes personally for him and maybe kind of threw him off and caused this outlier season. And maybe Sean Payton can mentally get him back into the mindset he needs to be back to where he was as a Pro Bowler with Seattle. So yeah, Sean Payton's a good hire.
Hmm.
I was skeptical at first, but you know, hey, I mean it. The matchup makes sense though, just because when you mentioned Drew Brees and Russell Wilson, yeah, it definitely makes more sense.
Yep. Yep. Definitely guess we'll see, man. Guess we'll see. And I'm definitely looking forward to the draft to see what the Bears are going to do with our
Oh yeah,
first pick and see how many assets we can get, see how many free agents to come here. And plus, once we get over to Arlington Heights and get a dome, hopefully we get some better free agents and come to Chicago because, I mean, coming here, playing the Soldier Field is not too appealing. So, but yeah, hopefully that'll all change whenever we get like a new stadium. But that's not until like another 3 or 4 years away. But at least we got our quarterback of the future, and we're gonna have some good draft assets right now. And then about time we do end up moving, then our current picks will start to kind of mature, and then they should be like established NFL players by that time. So hopefully. We'll definitely be a force by then, but for right now we're just suffering our growing pains.
yeah. Um, I never really asked this question. As I work with Bears fans, what position would you guys want to fill at the number one pick? I guess if you're the GM, what kind of position would you fill?
We need, I would probably say, just get the best left tackle.
I agree.
Yeah, because I mean, right now our weakest link is our line, and then we need some talent on the outside. I mean, Moody got hurt. I get that, but we need some more blue chip receivers out there. I mean, Cole Komet, to me, I think he could turn into a Travis Kelsey light because he got the body type, he got the speed. He don't got the route running yet, but he literally got the same body type as Travis Kelsey. I love Cole Komet, but
He's better this year too.
he don't
So
got those
what?
opportunities like that. So and plus, Justin, he was just running for his life. So, but yeah, we get shore up the offensive line and get some better outside talent. Then yeah, we're definitely working with something. And plus, you got to shore up the defense as well.
Yeah, your front seven is your foundation, and if you can get the foundation of your house in order, then everything else is going to be much smoother. Because if you're talking about the O line, you're protecting your quarterback. It kind of relieves the pressure off him and gives him time to throw. And the same applies on the opposite side of the ball too. Like if you have a strong defensive line, that's going to make it difficult for the opponent's offense.
Hmm.
So alignment are, my opinion, underrated in terms of kind of how important they are. And it's normal because they're not the most exciting positions, quarterback, receiver, running back. Those guys get all the spotlight in terms of when you watch the plays, but the linemen, they behind the scenes or they make the good things happen for the offense or defense. So I have a soft spot for linemen because of that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah. You said it right. Yeah, they are the foundation. So yeah, if you can't protect the quarterback, then chances are, I mean, you're gonna have some long losing seasons. So yeah, I'm tired of having these seasons in agony. With bad quarterback play. Now that we got the quarterback of our future, we got to protect him with the best offensive line possible. So well, yeah.
Fortunately, my quarterback's probably going to go to New York. So I might have to. The Packers might have to have a rebuild once that happens.
For y'all to have Favre and Rodgers back to back, I mean, not many teams experienced that. The only other team that did that was Montana and Steve Young. But yeah, y'all got a good 20 years of good football out of both those quarterbacks. So definitely be grateful.
Yeah, that's true.
Be grateful.
That is true. I do got to be grateful for that at least.
Yeah. So Well, yeah, man. Hey, that's all I have from here, man. And yeah, y'all definitely had heard it from here. Our Super Bowl picks, Combat Sports Podcast, Corner Store Podcast. We both picked the Kansas City Chiefs to come out victorious in the Super Bowl. So hopefully we're right. And we may end up doing like another video as far as like breaking down what happened in the game. And yeah, we'll definitely try to schedule something like that sometime later.
Most definitely.
Cool, man. All right, AJ, man. Hey, thanks for having this with me tonight, man. And yeah, have a good week, man. And we'll definitely talk sometime after the Super Bowl.
Yeah, man. Thanks for inviting me. We'll definitely do these videos more often. I had a good time.
All right, thanks, man. Appreciate it. Have a good one.
You too, man.
All right, see ya.